to his missus already. This is not going to go well, is it? He's a so-and-so. The past couple of videos I have done, I have been concentrating a lot on the display tank, the 200 gallon tank, just trying to make it look a little bit better, because I guess to say I wasn't too happy with it. Am I ever happy with it? Probably not. It is my display tank, and I think it's because I can't change it around too much. With the other tanks I tend to move fish about quite a lot of the time. Anyway, so I think that's what it is with that tank. I'm just not, I can't play about with it as much as what I would like to. A little bit. Which, you know, I know you're not really supposed to with certain species, but I do. This tank here, I'm going to move some of the larger ones into that tank. I think it was in my aquarium, the different types of aquarium filters that I had in the fish room. This tank, I did say I was going to move some of them into the larger tank once I'm getting that sorted. So before I did that, I thought I might as well show you what's actually in this tank, because these are some pretty cool fish. They are juveniles, still juvenile fish, but some of them are getting quite large now, large enough that I think I can put them in with the big boys. If I put enough of them in at the same time, I think that should be okay. It's mainly the big guy I'm worried about. He is quite placid, but he's such a big fish. He's probably thinking which fish. Not the eye biter. He is a little bit of a you know what, but I'm not particularly worried about him. I just give him a few females and he's happy. Solves all the problems. It's the front hose that I'm worried about, because he just gets really protective over his missus, and he doesn't put up with nothing. The rest of them know to leave her alone, and that makes him leave them alone. Some of these younger ones, I don't think they've got the sense to do that. In fact, I know they won't have the sense to do that. So what I'm thinking is, if I put enough of them in at the same time, then he should hopefully get a little bit distracted by what's going on, and they might eventually just go in the rocks that I've put in there, them new rocks. Oh, I keep saying that, new rocks. The new old rocks that I put in last week's video when I did the rescape. I'm hoping that those will suffice and they can just kind of hide in there if they want to get away from the larger guys, stopping any of the drama. But only time will tell. You know, it's one of those things with fish, you can't really predict what they're going to do. You can have a vague idea, but you never really know how they're going to react. This door keeps opening and it's really annoying. So before I actually did that, I thought, well, why don't I go through this tank and all the different types of fish that's in there. There's not that many. Well, there is quite a lot of fish in there, but there's not a lot of different species of fish in there. They're all haps and they're all peacocks, so apart from the clown loaches that are in there. What I will do is I'll go through them and I will show you each of the different ones that's in that tank before I start taking the tank apart, splitting them hollow. It's starting to look really good, which is a shame, but I do need to move some of the larger ones into there so the others can catch up. It's starting to get a little bit overcrowded in there. If putting them fish in the 200 gallon tank doesn't work, I can always move them out somewhere else. So that is what we do. I'm going to go through this tank and I'm going to show you the different species that I actually keep in it. So I might give you a few different ideas if you fancy some of these fish. Which fish keep together, I don't know. You might find this useful. So let's get going. That way. That way. So I'm probably going to start with the Lethrinops, and these are the Chilingali. If you know anything about Lethrinops, they are believed to be extinct in the wild now, which is pretty sad. When you find them, like if they're tank bred now, it's been overfished. It's one of those things. It is slightly a debatable subject when you're talking about keeping wild caught fish and fishing wild caught fish. It is debatable. It isn't everybody's cup of tea. People have various opinions on it, but you know on this channel, this is an open space. We will not shy away from controversial subjects and topics, and you are free to leave any comments that you want on your opinions on wild caught fish or anything that I discuss in this channel or any of my videos. You are totally free to do that. and I will respond. I will have a discussion with you. This is something that I don't want to ever shy away from. You know, communication is the key, and there's lots of different opinions, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one person's right above another person, but you can learn lots of things from different people. You can learn different perspectives and different point of views. This channel is a safe space where you can actually do that. You can say your comments and you can have discussions, as long as you are in keeping with YouTube regulations, and we'll not have an issue with it. So yeah, it is something that is debatable about. I know a lot of people in the saltwater community have this issue of fishing wild caught fish and things like that. It is something that is a bit, how do we say, some people like it and some people don't, and some people are very against it, and while other people just don't really have an opinion. Me personally, I think it depends on the fish. I think it depends on the circumstances of the fish. It depends on whether they are on the red list or not. Endangered species, everything to do with that. So it obviously isn't something that I am like totally against. I do keep wild caught frontosers. I do keep other species of wild caught fish. However, there is backstories to those, which you can obviously check out in previous videos as to why I have them fish. Getting a little bit off subject there, but these fish are believed to be extinct in the wild now. So you would only get them bred in captivity, which is pretty sad. Hopefully breeding these types of fish and trying to get their numbers back up so they can be released in the wild. Hopefully that is something that can actually happen in the future to preserve these species. If nothing else, people who keep these types of fish, they are carrying it on for the next generation to actually enjoy, even though people will be people and they will overfish and take more than what they should. That is something that happens, and I think breeding these fish in captivity to hopefully reintroduce them into natural habitat someday, that is a goal. That is something that hopefully can be achieved. So like I said, these are pretty rare fish, and I do have quite a few of them in here, so I am very lucky to actually have them in here. So these are Lethrinops Chilingali, and these are Hap-Placidochromis, and they are peacock. They are quite placid, however. The fish that you'll see in this tank, they are placid. Well, placid in the African Cichlid world, put it that way. They're not going to get along with what you call communal fish, I suppose. And most of these fish that are in here actually are in that same category, so that I think that's why this tank works out so well, to be honest. And it is going to be a shame. I am going to miss them all in this tank being together, but they have to go up sometime and they have to move on. Well, they're not moving far, they're only moving next door, but you know, a bit over dramatic, wasn't it? So one of the main distinctions between the Chilingali and other types of Lethrinops is they'll have this stripe that goes down them, and it sort of breaks in half, sort of halfway through, and that is one of the ways that you can actually tell the differences between these and other types of Lethrinops species. So they do tend to have a bit of a shorter snout on them, which I think sometimes it makes them look a little bit like a boona, but obviously they're not. Don't have such a pronounced as sort of like the more predatorial fish have. Like I say, these are quite placid. They're not overly aggressive fish, so they don't really need that hunter long snout that most like things like your Livingstone eye and your eye biters would actually have. There's no need for that really. So they are sand sifters, so they do like to sift through sand. A lot of aquariums tend to keep them on sand, or I always choose to keep them on crushed coral. That's what all my tanks are on. I just find it so much better for the pH. I don't chase my pH. I like to use all the natural substances to do that, and that is what works out personally better for me. But you can keep them on sand, it's absolutely fine, and they will enjoy sand. So sand, crushed coral, anything like that, because substrate, they are going to appreciate things like that. So they can actually sift, because with the crushed coral you can get different sizes of crushed coral. You can get the smaller gradient ones and you can get the larger. So perhaps it is better off sticking to the smaller gradient rather than the larger ones for your sand sifters. That's probably the better way to go, but there's no harm in keeping them on larger pieces of crushed coral either. It's not going to do them any harm. And when you're talking about size wise, probably going to grow up to about 15 centimeters. Obviously this is going to vary from fish to fish, but around 15 centimeters, you're pH is probably going to be about 7.5 to 8.5, so quite a wide variant on that. Temperature, anything from, I would say, like 23, 24 up to 28, maybe what they're most comfortable in. As always, keeping a steady pH and temperature is better than, it's always the better way to go. So anything in between those, as long as it's kept relatively stable, you should be good to go with those. Alright, next up in this tank we have star sapphires. Now these are Placidochromis, Hap-Placidochromis, star sapphires. It gets confusing, but they are a Hap-Placidochromis. They're just called Placidochromis star sapphire Hap-Placidochromis. Does that make sense? Again, these are really placid fish when it comes to cichlids. A lot of aquariums tend to say you need to keep them in with like 1 male to say 3 females, or in a larger group. I think it depends on tank size. Again, if you are having them in a larger tank, then you are going to be able to get away with having multiple males in there, as long as it has enough females to keep them occupied, if that makes sense. So it doesn't cause too much of a disruption with boys, because boys will be boys and they like to fight. So as long as you have a large enough tank, you should be able to get away with having multiple males in, as long as you have multiple females to occupy those males. Again, nothing's ever set in stone with fish. It's very up and down. You have to judge your tank size, you have to judge the filtration, your tank mate, and you have to judge the individual fish's characteristics and personality, because they're all different. Something that has worked absolutely fabulous in one tank for me with certain species of fish will not just go disastrously wrong in another tank setup. It's just one of those things. It is all about being experimental and seeing if it is going to work. However, as long as you have something to fall back on if that doesn't work, as in another tank to pop your fish in, another group, if your fish do need to be in a group, you need to have tank mates of the same species. As long as you have something like that in place, then there's no reason why you can't go out and get these fish and try your star sapphires in with some of your more placid haps. You never know, it might work. Once they start reaching adulthood, you can start to see the differences in these fish. Males are going to be that lovely blue colour, where your females are going to be slightly duller in colour. They are going to stop at grey. It's sort of like a light grey, it's like a bluey grey, so you can still tell that they are star sapphires. However, you are going to notice the difference between a fully grown male and a fully grown female. I actually like these fish because this is one of the fish that you can't change their female characteristics to males as easy, because the males have the chips in them, so you can't exactly do this with these types of fish. So this is one of the fish that I really enjoy, and I enjoy seeing the differences in the colours between them. These are normally found in shallower waters, so they do like to sift through sand again. So again, sand, crushed coral, lighter base of crushed coral, that's going to do really well for these. Sometimes with them being so blue and bright in colour, a darker substrate tends to work out a little bit better for these types of fish. Me personally, I still notice a big difference between, I don't know whether it's just because my substrate in the 200 gallon tank is pretty light, but the background is very dark. So I don't know whether I've noticed a difference in those fish through that. The contrast from the darker background to the blues, cancelling out the substrate, and you can still see his bright colours and his chips really clearly. I don't know whether that has anything to do with it, because I've never actually tried them on a lighter background, I don't think. Me personally, I don't notice a difference, but if you do want them to stand out, then a lot of aquariums tend to put them in darker substrate, a darker background, and it makes the colours really pop. So that is an option if that's what you want to do with those. pH guideline again is 7.5 to 8.5, quite wide variant, always keep a stable pH however. Then temperature wise, 25 to 28, and these fish will generally grow probably about 16 centimeters, give or take. So that's kind of like the ballpark of where they're going to grow to. Obviously the males are going to grow bigger than what the females are. I'm telling you this information so you can actually gauge on the size of the fish what they're going to be as they reach adulthood, and how many fish you've got and what kind of size tank you're looking at. I'm really sorry about this light. It's very, very bright, this light, because like I say, all of my lights have pretty much just all died at the same time, and I've got money going elsewhere at the moment on other projects, so it isn't really something I'm focusing on getting the lights. I've still got light, still have day and night cycles, so don't worry, don't stress. I'm not leaving them in the dark all the time. They do have lights, as you can see, it's pretty bright. So this next species of fish, these are again under the Aulonocara species, and these are the Baenschi bengers. Now I love these fish. I do enjoy the males a lot better than the females, I must say. I think it's the bright yellow colours, because they are known as the sunshine peacock. That's what one of their little nicknames is. And they are beautiful, they are stunning fish, so beautiful, and that bright yellow colour, it's just like, it just pops out at you when especially when they're older, when they're fully grown. Females, they're going to be more like a grey colour, darker grey colour, but again, pretty much like the same kind of substrate, like sandy substrate is what they like, lighter crushed coral. So all of these types of species that are in this tank is all pretty much the same. They are either Aulonocara or the Hap-Placidochromis, and they are generally the more peaceful varieties of these types of species. So, like I say, for me personally, they have getting along absolutely fine. And this is a grow-out tank, so that might have something to do with it as well. All of these actual fish in here are African Cichlid in here, so we're going to exclude the Clown Loaches. I can't take credit for those. But all of the cichlids are in here. These are all what I've bred myself, so these are all of different groups, different breeding spawns, but all of them that have come from this fishery. So that's pretty special in itself. And I am really proud of that I've got a full tank here of beautiful homebred fish, basically. It's a real accomplishment when your fish start breeding. That to me is like the ultimate sign that you're doing something right and that they are happy. The males will be like that bright yellow colour, and the stripes that go down vertically across them, those are sort of like a whitey colour, whitey sort of like lighter lemon colour. You can see the differences in that sort of shade. And then with the females, although they are like a dark grey, they will have them same stripes, only they are going to be sort of like a lighter grey. And the differences is with their dorsal fin, the females, you can still see on their dorsal fin the yellowness, so you can differentiate some of them types of females from other species of females, because a lot of the times the peacocks and haps, the female variety, they're all normally like a grey, darker colour. So that is one of the really, I think it's really pretty myself. I think they're one of the more prettier females of the grey variety, because they do have that sort of yellow little trail on the end of their dorsal fin, which really pops out to me. So size wise, again, probably around 15 centimetres. We're talking about average size of fish here for haps, peacocks. pH, again, 7.5 to 8.5, probably what I would suggest. And temperature wise, again, the same, 23 to 28. That's probably your variance, what you're going to have. As always, research. Don't just take one person's word for it. Do as much research as what you possibly can on these different types of fish. It's really fun to learn all these different things, and you can take other people's perspectives from it, other people's advice on how it's worked out for them, because you've got to remember, people keep African Cichlid all over the world, not just one continent. So what might work best for you in your country might not work necessarily best for somebody in a different country to you. So what I would suggest is that you do as much research as what you can, listen to as many African Cichlid keepers and fish keepers as what you can, and learn little bits from them, and figure out what works best for you. So there's no law against it, there's no saying that you have to stick to what one person says, and there's nothing saying that you have to agree with what everybody else says, or agree with everything that one particular person says. Something that a particular YouTuber or fish keeper might be saying or doing, you might not necessarily agree with, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that they have a different opinion to you, and it's probably worked for them great in the past. And as long as your fish are happy and healthy, then that is what counts the most. And apart from dietary, when it comes to nutrition, there's no change in my mind on that. The nutrition is one of the things that is a base for everything. It is what develops your fish, sustains your fish, and keeps them going. So you mess about with their diet and you start changing their diet and feeding them food that they're not supposed to have, you are eventually going to run into issues. Pumping sorts of chemicals into your fish, it eventually is going to turn nasty. And you can probably see there is quite a lot of this next species in here, or two types of species, or however you want to see it. I have some Orbeez in here. well, there's quite a few Orbeez in here, and they are different species, put it that way. So some of them are actually the platinum Orbeez, whereas some of them are the more orangey types of Orbeez, so the orange Orbeez. So you can see those two were in there. Now, Orbeez is one of the things that I really enjoy. Orbeez, I must admit, they are one of the fish, again, a little bit like the Sapphires, only you will find them out in the lakes, whereas Orbeez you won't, because they are tank bred and they are man-made. So there's lots of different species of them, Orbeez, so it just generally means that they're the orange blotty colour. They are an Aulonocara species. Basically how it started a long time ago, back in the day, it was the Aulonocara mixed with an Mbuna. It is the OB Mbuna, because that's where they get that gene from, that spotty, speckled, splashy colour. They get it from the Mbuna side of the family, tree. That's where they get that from, and mixed in with the Aulonocara, you got these beautiful fish, which, as far as fish are concerned, it's pretty good for a man-made fish, I must say. And this is one of the things that I love about them, is that there isn't really a strict patterns and standards when it comes to these types of fish, because they are man-made fish. So it isn't something that you're going to naturally find, so you have comparisons between them in the wild. So they don't look like that, they don't look like this. There is always a varying difference between what a wild fish is going to look like and a tank bred fish is going to look like. Take frontoses, for example. I explained this in my other video with my wild frontoses, how their bellies are sunken in a little bit, and that's not to do with parasites, it's just because they are wild caught fish. That's where they're made up, where you notice, even in comparison to the Burundi, say for example, their bellies is not as sunken in. I know it's a different breed of frontosa, I'm just using this as an example. You can see the differences between an F1 fish and a wild caught fish. I unfortunately don't have any F1 blue zayis that I can show you. They're too small, the first batch that I got off the frontoses, so we'll have to wait quite a while before they get to that size. So being hybrids, every pattern's going to be different, especially when you go down generations. It is going to be slightly different, depends on what you are breeding it with. If you are breeding a hybrid with a hybrid, depending on what source of hybrid that came from and that genes of that one, it's always going to be different. So it's a brilliant thing about them fish. When people use colour enhancers to make them appear something that they're not, isn't as popular with these types of fish, because there isn't particularly a strict standard when it comes to these. So that is another reason why I really enjoy these fish, is because they're so relaxed. They can just be themselves. These ones are definite hybrids. Like I say, I've bred them myself. So we have the Aulonocara firefish was their mother, and their father was Skittles, here he is. He was an OB, so that's how they got mixed. And last but certainly not least, I do have some Clown Loaches in here. I would say there's probably about 12 in here, and they are different sizes. Now these tend to get along really well with your Malawis. As long as they are quite peaceful, they tend to get along just fine. You do need quite a large group of these if it is going to work in with cichlids. So keep them in a larger group, definitely don't go any less than 6. Like I say, I have about 12 in here, and they tend to get along with fine with like more peaceful cichlid variety. They get along really well with, I put them in with Tropheus a lot of the times as well, because they just seem as if they they'll have a nice contrast with the Tropheus colours to the Clown Loach colours, because the Clown Loach colours are so distinct that black and orange, you just automatically look and say Clown Loach. So it is quite nice to see them in, especially with different variations of colours. That's another thing that I do like to do as well. But yeah, they are absolutely fine in here with these guys, and I am growing them out. So they can grow quite large. They can grow to about 20 centimetres. So you are talking quite a big fish there. Always make sure that you have a large tank. If you are going to get quite a larger number of them, say about 12, make sure you have a large enough tank to sustain them throughout their lifespan. Or you have plans to upgrade in the future, and the tank that they're in is just a grower tank. They are slow growers, so you don't necessarily just have a couple of months with them being that size. They are slow growers, so just another option. That's what I do like to keep in with these guys. This is just a few ideas for different types of species of fish that you can get if you're looking to do a Malawi tank. This isn't what you call a small tank by any means, but like I say, it is overstocked. But I have personally found that these types of fish, with them being peaceful Aulonocara and peaceful Hap-Placidochromis, I have found that they get along absolutely fine. I hope you enjoyed seeing this tank before they all get moved. Well, not all of them. I'm not moving all of them. Some of them are stuck in there, but it won't be as good. Alright guys, so hopefully you enjoyed that video. Seeing the fish in that tank before I start moving them into the larger 200-gallon tank in big boys. They're forever home. Well, we'll see. We'll see if it works out forever. Never any guarantees of forever with fish, is there? So I'm pleased I got to share this with you and see in this tank, because these are all the fish that I've bred myself, so I am very, very proud of that tank. Yeah, and I will keep you posted. I'll do a video on when them guys move into that tank and show you their reaction and show you the big guy's reaction, which hopefully is okay. But anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already and click that notification bell, lets you know every time I upload a video. And with all that being said, don't forget to like, thumbs up, all that jazz, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye now.